let's talk about what we can learn from a simple phonics assessment like this one. And I want to point out, first of all, that if I just were to simply look at the accuracy, this student got 75%. But what does that truly tell me? How does that guide my instruction? It doesn't tell me a lot. But then when I look closely and if I take enough notes while I'm doing this assessment, I can actually learn a lot. So let's dive in. First of all, I want to talk about why it's a nonsense word assessment. I'm looking at their ability to decode accurately. And I'm looking at their even their automaticity with that. So how comfortably can they decode these words? How accurate are they? That means, are they getting the correct, are they saying the correct sounds for each symbol or letter? And then do they have the phonemic awareness skills to blend those sounds together to read the word? And the focus is CVC words. So this is the kind of assessment I would give after I've taught CVC words and I'm following up. I want to see how my students are doing with this skill. So let's take a look. When I write letters above like that, that's showing how they decoded the word. So that means that they did sound by sound. They said k, ah, j. And then that check mark above shows that ultimately they read the word correctly. So they didn't just give me the sounds. They then, after that, blended those sounds together to say kaj. So that is a correct word. And not only do I know that they were accurate, I can now see how they went about reading that word. This one, they read onset and rhyme. So that's kind of a step up. They went up, mup. And then here I can see that they substituted short I for short E. If I keep going and looking at this whole thing, I see that for the most part, they decoded sound by sound. So each letter they looked at, they gave the sound, and then they blended it together. There is a consistent short E issue here where they're substituting short I for short E, but it's consistent there. I see a B and D confusion, which is pretty normal at this phase. And I see that in some cases, they're starting to blend onset and rhyme. I also see that QU is something that we need to work on, which is also pretty common because there's not a lot of single syllable words that have that begin with QU. So there's just not a lot of practice that they're given. So what does this tell me? This tells me that for the most part, this student can accurately decode CVC words. They are accurately providing the correct sound for the consonant letters so far, with the exception of the QU, which is something that I'll need to work on. And I do know that they have B, D, and confusion, but I might look at that and say, do they know the sounds of B and D? And is it just more of that confusion of that directionality confusion? I know that they know their short vowel sounds except for short E. So what that tells me is I can, oh, and one more thing. I also know that they have the phoneme blending skills to blend those sounds together to read the word. So there's a lot of good here. And this shows me that this student is proficient with reading CVC words. However, they could use a little bit more practice so they can become a little more automatic. And I'm going to be doing some more work with short E. So I might just continue to work on that, particularly maybe comparing with short I, so we can kind of go back and forth with those two. So this shows me I can move on to the next skill, and also I can still give them opportunities independently or with a partner to continue to practice decoding CVC words. I'm going to throw in some phrases in there too in some sentences, because this shows me, aside from pretty much short E, they're accurate. They have the ability to decode CVC words. So I just want them to keep practicing so they can become more automatic. At the same time, in my instructional time with them and with small groups, I'm going to be doing that vowel intensive with that short E. I'm going to be giving short E a little bit more attention. And I'll even bring that to their attention that E is one that we're going to work on, so I might have like a visual for them. So when they are practicing decoding independently, I might give them a little vowel bookmark and say, when you see E, make sure you say the key word to remind you, edi, that it says versus whether you use igloo or itchy, and that can be a way to help them. So that is how much information I can get out of just this simple assessment. Tells me what to do instructionally. It tells me that I can move on to this next skill with this student as long as I'm continually practicing certain things.